This TV show is made available to provide general information and a general overview of legal principles. Viewers should not rely on the information provided without consulting an attorney who is licensed to provide legal advice. Topics and ideas shared on this show are not to be used as a substitute for legal advice from a licensed attorney in your state.
Welcome to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm your host, Michelle Bell. Now, this show is where I bring on other attorneys and we give you, the audience, legal information. Now, I like to start the show off with a segment I call Jury Duty. And that's similar to trivia, where I give you a question and the first person to send in the correct answer to our website will have their name posted on the website and receive a free gift. And the website is www.mbunderoath.com. Now let's get to it. The question is, which actress plays the female lead in the American crime thriller television series, The Blacklist? Now, if you're not watching The Blacklist, you need to watch that show. Now, we're gonna have a great guest on today. She's gonna be talking about child support, and she's coming from the awesome state of Georgia. We'll be right back.
When they test you, stand firm and move only when you hear the seatbelt click that says they're buckled in for the drive. Never give up till they buckle up.
Welcome back to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm your host, Michelle Bell. And today we have a wonderful guest. Her name is Miss Ursula Langford. She's an attorney. She practices family law, entertainment law, and she's also the owner of a television film production company, and it's called Focality Productions, right?
Yep, Focality Productions.
Oh, she is legit. Entertainment and have your own production company. I mean, you can't get any better than that. So welcome, Ursula. How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So, okay, let's start off with, why did you become an attorney?
I heard they made a lot of money.
You know what? That's a good answer.
But no, I actually have always wanted to be an attorney. I used to work in radio prior to being a lawyer. And I worked in the promotions department, and I did a lot of work with artists. And honestly, I saw the contracts we were giving them, and then I would talk to some of the artists, and they would tell me some of the deals that they had with their record labels. And I always wanted to say, you know, if I ever became an attorney, left this radio thing, that I wanted to help the artists. I wanted to be an artist attorney. I wanted to be to help the underdog. So I got laid off. Right after 9/11, I got laid off, and I said, what am I going to do with myself? And I was like, oh, this is your opportunity to become a lawyer. That's what you wanted to do. And so I applied to law school, and here I am.
That's a great story. So what topic are we going to discuss for the audience today?
I think I'm going to go with family law, and I think I'm going to specialize it or center it around child support, because that is a very heated topic no matter where you are. It's always heated.
Now, what states do you practice in?
I practice in Georgia.
Okay. Now, when we talk about it, you're going to talk about Georgia as well as in general, since our audience is, you know, across all the states, right?
Right. So what'll happen is basically I will give you the basis, because most of the states kind of go along the same route with how they structure their statutes and their law and their case law. However, there are nuances for each state. And so if there are nuances for each state, I definitely would talk about Georgia, but try to give an overview of what you should look for or what you should argue for. But most definitely always check with an attorney in your state for the specifics.
Okay. That sounds good. So let's just get right into it. Child support. Now, I don't know anything about that, thank goodness. But I see when I'm in court is a whole lot of people that is just sitting in there and unhappy and complaining about child support. So what about
Nobody
if you
seems to ever be happy on either side of child support. That's what I've
Really?
noticed. No, well, we're not going to say mother, father, because there's no presumption that the mother is a custodial parent. That's the first thing. So I will say the custodial parent, which is the person who has the child or children, and then the non-custodial is the one who does not.
Okay, but how is everybody unhappy? I would think the custodial parent would be happy because they are receiving additional income and they have the child.
So we're going to talk about whether or not they're receiving that additional income.
Okay.
But they're not happy primarily because they feel that there's never enough to meet the ends or to meet the bills or to provide for the children. Because in honesty, they're just giving them a portion, some type of, in some states, it's based on a percentage of the non-custodial parents' income. But in Georgia, they actually look at both, and in a lot of other states, they look at both parties' income and then they adjust it accordingly, and I'll get into some of those nuances that they adjust them with. So typically the custodial parent feels like I'm still running up a $400 electric bill. I may get $500 in child support, but my electric bill may be $300, and then there's daycare maybe, and then there's school clothes and uniforms. So they're feeling that that money just is not enough. And then on the other hand, the non-custodial parent feels like, well, I have my own household I have to take into consideration. I may have children with someone else. I may be remarried. I may have children outside the home, in the home, and I'm sending $500 outside of my home. Okay. So I always find that neither one, primarily or in the majority of cases, neither one seems to be very happy with the situation unless they've come to an agreement together or, but that's what I'm finding.
Okay, so how does the process of getting child support, how do you start it? For those that don't know.
Well, first, if you can't agree, that's the first thing. You always want to choose if you can agree on child support, because you really don't ever want a judge to tell you what you should receive or what you should pay for your child. So the hope, or I would say the hope is that you can come to an agreement where you don't have to go to court, but then you wouldn't need me. But I'm okay with that. I mean, I'm okay with it. If the family's happy and intact, I'm okay with that. But if you can't come to an agreement and say, well, I think this amount will be sufficient for me to take care of, you enter into a settlement agreement, then that's fine. Or you just move through life with that agreement. But if you can't agree, and in most situations, you have to file an action with the court. You have to file an action for child support.
And that's if you can agree?
If you
still
cannot.
have to do that? Oh, if you
well,
cannot.
Here's the thing. If you do an agreement and there is no motion or petition before the court for child support, it's not enforceable if the non-custodial parent does not pay the child support. So they won't have any remedies under the law if there's no court order that's ordering them to pay, if you just agree with it and you're just moving through life.
Really? So what happens if the two of them actually come to an agreement and they write it down, they both parties sign it, it still doesn't give the person, like the non-custodial, like if they decide, you know what, I'm not going to pay this for whatever reason, even though I have this agreement on paper and we signed it.
Let me say this.
You still can't get me on it?
There's no legal. However, I've used that notarized paper as evidence that there was an agreement and this person is able to pay that as evidence to get a child support amount entered. I suggest that if you're the type of parents where you know that you can do this and this person is going to be good for it, then you know that person better than you had a child with that person or you were married to that person. So I'm not going to tell you go run to the court. But in most cases, even if you agree, I would suggest that you file a petition with the court and that you enter that settlement agreement with the court. So that if there is a time where, non-custodial parent bumps their head or forgets, sometimes, people get remarried and they start like feeling themselves.
Selective amnesia,
Selective
as my mother used to call it,
right.
selective amnesia.
Or the new spouse or girlfriend or boyfriend is like, that's too much money going out of my house. And so you have those different variables that may come in. Then you have a remedy for enforcement.
Okay, so if you don't have the agreement and you have to go to court, and you want to file a claim or petition for child support, like what is the process? What should a person do first What should they bring with them to court? What should they do?
Well, you have to be nosy. Or you have to know. I mean, you'll be amazed how many people come to court and want child support and have no clue what the other person makes, where or even where they work, or if they work. So you have to know if they have a job. I mean, we do have a process called discovery where we can send out subpoenas to jobs and send interrogatories and requests for production of documents to the other party to force them to provide us with the information that they need, that you need. But if the person is working, you can send a subpoena to the job, and you can get the W-2s, you can get their pay stubs so that you know how much that they're making. But you have to file a petition, and in that petition, you have to state what your income is, what you know or believe to know what that non-custodial parent's income is. In Georgia, and that's in Georgia because we're looking at both sides of the income.
Right.
In other states, and I believe Texas is one of the states that does percentages, you just have to know what the non-custodial parent is making, and they take a percentage of that.
Okay.
And I think they do factor into children. I'm not for sure about that. But on the Georgia side, you would have to bring in your gross. So they do gross, not net, which I have a problem with. And they do the gross of the non-custodial parent.
Okay, for those that don't understand the difference between gross and net, because there are some people who don't.
Okay.
What is gross?
So gross is what you bring home before anything is taken out.
Okay.
Which I think is an unfair playing field because that's not what you bring home.
Right, it's not what you bring home. So net is what you bring home after
taxes,
insurance, benefits, and all that
exactly.
good
So
stuff.
they go by the gross. And what Georgia will also do is take into consideration any other extenuating circumstances that you or finances that you have to pay for the child. So there may be daycare, there may be aftercare costs, there may be special needs or special education costs. Okay. Georgia will give parenting time credit, but the thing about parenting time credit is you have to prove that there's an excessive amount of parenting time on the non-custodial parent side. So the non-custodial parent can come in and say, well, I want an adjustment to my child support, or I want to receive credit or additional credit for child support payments because I keep the child 2 weeks out of the month and mom keeps the child 2 weeks out of the month. And in that case, the court will look at it. But they have to prove, not just an estimate, that you've done it. Because I've had cases where the other party comes in and say, well, I want credit for parenting time. But I look at the history and you've only seen this child once in 2 years.
Well, how do you prove it? Like, say if you don't have receipts because you took them to the store to get some things or you took them shopping. How do you prove that you actually have that parenting time with that child?
Well, the parenting time is actually the physical time with the child. So it's not the monetary time, it's the physical time with the child. So it may be Monday through Thursday, they're with dad. And then the rest of the week, they're with mom. And dad says, well, I want an adjustment because I have them 4 days out of the week as opposed, and she only has them 3. But he has to, for me, and when I go to court, what I look for and what I try to establish is that there is a pattern that has already been established.
Okay.
For a significant, now I wouldn't say significant for a substantial amount of time or a reasonable amount of time to say that this person is just not doing this for show, but they actually have put in the effort to watch these kids, to parent these kids in additional. So the court will look for substantial evidence that shows that a pattern of the father or the mother having put in the time of credit that they're asking for.
Oh, you know what? That's a lot because that's the first time I've heard about a parent credit that you can get for the time that you spend with that. And that some states have it, some states don't.
Correct.
We're gonna take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna go into our segment of office hours where you, the audience, have sent in your questions. And Ms. Ursula Langford is gonna answer them, and then we'll continue on with her topic on child support. It's been great information, so don't go anywhere, come right back.
Thank you. You got a king?
Go fish!
The smallest moments can have the biggest impact on a child's life. Take time to be a dad today.
Welcome back to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm still here with my guest, Ms. Ursula Langford. Now, we're going to go into the segment that's called Office Hours, and that's where the audience has sent in some questions on family law for you. So I believe we have 2, and they are audio, so you're not going to be able to see them, but you can hear them. Are you ready for the first one? And answer it the best you can.
Okay.
All right?
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to play the first one.
I have a family law related question. What can I do if I'm having trouble making my child support payments?
Okay. And it's a guy, which is interesting. And I say that because most guys are so afraid to ask that question, and that's how most of them that are on child support end up, unfortunately, in jail or $20,000, $30,000 in arrears. Okay. But the thing that he has to do first is he has to file what's called a petition for modification of his child support.
Okay.
He has to show that in Georgia, the criteria is that he has to show that there are extenuating circumstances that would warrant him having a modification in child support. Circumstances such as he's lost his job, the mother makes more money, and this is interchangeable, mother, father, whoever is the parent, the custodial parent. The other party the other parent is making substantially more money. There's a change in his health. There's a change in the health of the child. There are expenses related to the child that he's paying that change drastically. So there are a lot of reasons. There are a few reasons that the courts will consider for modification. But the underlying thing that the court will keep in mind at all times is that they will modify only based on the best interest and welfare and well-being of the child.
Okay, so you can't just go in there and say, I need a modification just because, you know, I don't have it or I just don't want to pay that amount.
Right, because you can, do you have a job? If you have a job, you can pay something, and they may modify it based on that. So if he had a significant reduction in his income, then yes. However, in Georgia, what judges will look for was that reduction in income voluntary?
Oh, like you decide I'm making about $80,000, but I don't want to pay this child support, so you quit and you go get a job like delivering pizza. Exactly. Where now you're making, you know, I don't know, what is it, $12, $15 an hour?
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly, because I've seen situations where they do that. They will go in and underreport or just voluntarily quit, voluntarily reduce their hours, just so that they can get a reprieve. And then they may work under the table. So there are a lot of things, but the court will make sure that there is evidence before them that shows that this person has an extenuating circumstances. And they look at a lot of different variables, but those are some of the main variables I know that judges in Georgia look at.
Okay, that sounds good. We have one more question that's in audio as well, so we can listen to that.
Hi, I have a family law question. I need to file for child support. How much can I expect?
We kind of touched on that earlier.
Right.
And it depends on, again, in Georgia, it depends on the income of the parties. So in states that use percentages, it depends on the income of the non-custodial parent. In Georgia, it depends on the gross. It depends on the monthly gross income of the mother and the father. Okay. And again, they will take into consideration things such as health care premiums, that life insurance premiums that either are paying, child care expenses that either are occurring. And these things must be substantiated with written documentation. You can't just say, oh, well, I send Junior to daycare and I pay $500 a month when really Big Mama is keeping him for free. So, if Big Mama is keeping him and Big Mama is being paid, then of course, then Big Mama has to make receipts, but right. You have to take those receipts with a grain of salt too. So,
wait, I agree. So that means basically there's a formula. It's not just the judge randomly picking an amount to do for child support. There's actually different formulas. Each state has its own formula.
Right. So like in Georgia, there's this actual child support worksheet, and you can Google it, Georgia child support worksheet, if you kind of want to see how it's done in states that that model themselves after Georgia. So you'll see where you put in the number of children. So you'll put in the number of children that child support is supposed to be entered for. You'll put in the gross income for mom, gross income for dad, and then everybody starts putting in whatever expenses that they're paying on behalf of the child. One thing that Georgia also does is they take into consideration what the are there any other children in the house that are being provided for? Okay. And now people get a little confused when they say that, because they say, oh, well, my stepchild is in the house and I'm paying for my stepchild. And so and the argument becomes, well, that's not your child. You're not paying child support. Or I have children somewhere else with someone else. How Georgia handles children outside of the home that they're paying child support for. So say, we're going to just say for sake of clarity, the father is the non-custodial parent, and he's ordered to pay child support, and the mother wants child support, and he has another child by another woman in another household. And he says, well, I want credit, because Georgia will give you credit for any child support you pay for another child in the state. However, you have to be current. They're just not going to say, oh, I owe $500 a month for child B, let me have credit, but you've never given child B's mom a dime since the child has been born. So Georgia's going to say, no, we're not going to do that. We're going to have to see where you have been making substantial payments, and I believe it's at least a 6-month history.
Okay, so does it go by, like, I guess, who filed for child support first?
No, Georgia does not go.
They don't care about that?
Georgia doesn't care about it. Now, some states do care about. They have an order of filing.
Right.
Georgia, no. It's whoever's there filing for child support. If there's another child that's already on child support, the only thing that the court can do is take into consideration that amount if he is current.
Just the amount. Okay,
Yes.
got it.
Right. Just the amount.
Okay. Well, again, each state is different, but that's clear to me. And I think that's all the questions we have for office hours.
I think so.
But it's great because that's some of the stuff that, we're still dealing with that topic anyway. So those questions were right on time to be dealing with child support. So to go back to what we were discussing before, if we have someone who wants to, let's take it from the non-custodial parent point of view.
Okay.
If you have the custodial parent who goes ahead and they file for child support, right? What does the non-custodial parent have to do to prepare for that court hearing? Because a lot of people don't know what to bring, what they should have, what to prove, and once they get there, what to say. Like, how does that work from the non-custodial parent point of view?
Well, let me address the part about what to say.
Okay.
Hire an attorney. Because you want to be able to efficiently and effectively state your case and use legal support. And that's why I say that. Because I've seen it, some people represent themselves well, but I think it's better done, and I think judges have a little bit more patience when there's an attorney of record as opposed to pro se litigants. But when he or she goes in on a child support an initial petition of child support, or if they're going in on a modification, they must bring at least 2 or 3 months worth of pay stubs. And this is what I know as from practicing in Georgia, bringing in at least 2 to 3 months, sometimes up to, well, I'll say 2 to 3 months of bank statements, because sometimes we know that people hide money, or they're making maybe $5,000 a month on paper, but then they have
tips and
$20,000 coming through their bank account.
Okay.
So bank accounts, and this is for both sides, okay? And then that's through what we call the discovery period, where you have the opportunity to request that person produce the same things to help you prove what they're making. But bank statements, tax returns for at least the last 2 years, any evidence of any additional expenditures, not just going and say, I'm buying him bubble gum or some new shoes, because that's really considered within the realm of your parenting. If you bought your kids some new Jordans or bought them, went and got their hair or their nails done for them, bought some makeup, that's within the realm of your parenting.
Right.
Things such as, my child needed uniforms for school, that's a little different.
Right.
Or they go to a private school and I had private school tuition or daycare. If I'm paying for childcare because I have to work, not, I'm paying for childcare and I'm still sitting at home. Because that's not why do you need childcare? But those are the things that you substantiate anything that you want to get credit for, and you have to bring and show the court what you're truly making. So those are just some of the things that I would suggest that they bring to court. And if they know those things or have that information on the other party, I would bring those too, because sometimes if some person is not being fully truthful, you can wave and say, hey, judge, it's not true. I have evidence.
So basically, just come be prepared.
Come prepared. Come evidence, documented evidence.
Okay.
And I can't say that anymore because you could come in and argue all day with the judge, and unless he or she sees it in black and white, or somebody's there to testify, they can't really give you credit.
Look, that makes sense. That totally makes sense. So I hope that everyone got a lot of information. I've learned a lot. I've never dealt with child support, so I've learned a lot here. And I hope you did too. Now, definitely, if you have more questions, you can contact Ms. Ursula Langford. She is, as you said before, she does practice in Georgia. And how would they be able to contact you?
You can reach me on my office phone, which is 678-487-7117, or you can follow me on Instagram, which is Ursula, URSULA_ESQ.
Gotta love it when attorneys use social media, right? It's awesome. That means you're moving into the century and we're not far behind.
Right.
So we're gonna take another break and we're gonna do one of our segments, which is Plead the Fifth. Love the segment. Oh, I can't wait for your answers. And
should I be afraid?
You should be. And we'll come back with more with Miss Ursula Langford, and we're gonna go over some more of the child support on what to do. So don't go anywhere.
It's a short ride from your neighborhood to your naturehood. To find a neighborhood park or green space near you, visit discovertheforest.org.
Welcome back to Under Oath with Michelle Bell. I'm your host, Michelle Bell, and I'm here with Miss Ursula Langford. So now we're gonna do my favorite segment, which is Plead the Fifth. This is where I'm gonna ask you questions, and then you either answer the question or you plead the fifth. Are you ready?
Can I plead the fifth, all of them?
Well, I hope not. I mean, we want to at least know something about you.
Okay.
Ready?
Okay.
Have you ever flirted with a police officer to get out of a speeding ticket?
No.
Okay. Have you ever shared chewing gum with anyone?
Oh, no.
Have you ever lied to get a job?
Yes.
Oh, shame. Have you ever, if you could hire someone to do one thing for you, what would it be?
I plead the fifth.
And what was the worst gift you ever received? Really?
I get great
You just
gifts.
get awesome gifts?
I do. I get awesome gifts.
Well, I'm gonna plead the fifth for you because that's just not like that. Just doesn't happen.
Okay, socks.
Okay. She didn't do as well as I thought she was gonna do on plead the fifth. So now we're gonna go into cheat sheet, and that's where you're gonna give the audience 3 quick tips for them to remember if they ever get in a situation with child support.
Okay. Documents are key and rule. Document and evidence, key. Number 2 would be understanding that judges have wide discretion. Your case is never a slam dunk. Again, be prepared. Going back to 1 with documents and evidence. And the last one would be smart. Be smart with your social media because we are lurking. We are lurking.
Those are awesome tips. So I thank you for coming on the show and sharing your great knowledge. And definitely, I loved your energy. You're going to have to come back and do something on entertainment because I'm just very interested in entertainment law.
Okay, I definitely will.
You will?
Yep.
Okay, great. Thank you for coming on the show. And thank you for watching the show. For more information about Under Oath with Michelle Bell, you can go to the website, which is www.mbunderoath.com. That is also where you can upload your questions. You can do it in video form or just an email for it to be on office hours and get answered by our guest. See you next time.